I'm Dick Squires. I'm on the Pro Keds advisory sports staff, and we're going to talk about another racket and ball game that's sweeping the country. It's called platform tennis, and we're going to compare it with regular tennis, the similarities as well as the differences. That's the best way to do it. With me is another member of the Pro Keds advisory staff, Ken Stewart, a fine tennis player from California. Ken, you want to come in here? How are you?
Hi, Nick.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Let's get down to the basics, Ken. The platform tennis paddle, which you see here on the right, is made out of wood. It's not strung the way a tennis racket is. It's quite a bit shorter. It weighs about 17 ounces, and the grip, of course, is very similar to a tennis racket. A platform tennis ball, as you see here on the right, is about the same diameter as a regulation tennis ball, only it's made out of sponge rubber. It does not have a pressurized center. The overall dimensions of a regulation tennis court, as you see here, are 36 by 78 feet in length. Overall wise, it's 60 by 120 feet. The platform tennis court is 1/4 the size of a tennis court, 30 by 60 feet overall, with lines being 44 feet by 20 feet in width. The net's 34 inches in the center as against 37 inches for a tennis court. Now, surrounding the entire playing surface is a 12-foot high superstructure to which is attached 1-inch hexagonal steel fencing, chicken wire in effect, off of which you can play the ball.
Dick, that explains some of the differences with the equipment and the court itself. You can also tell that you play outdoors in colder weather.
It's chilly. But invigorating, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Tell me about some of the similarities about the game itself.
Well, the scoring is identical to regular tennis, 15, 30, 40 love. We even have tiebreakers like tennis. And the strokes are pretty much the same, other than they're slightly abbreviated. You play with a locked wrist the way you do in tennis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What about some of the differences in the game, then, if those are similar?
Well, there's one great intriguing part of it is you only get one serve. You don't have the luxury of a second serve the way you do with every other racket and ball sport. And, of course, what we talked about before was this, what they call chicken wire that surrounds the court and you can play the ball off of, which brings about a lot of different changes in strategies, you might imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Kenny, you can install the courts practically anywhere. Even here on a rooftop, we've put in 6 courts.
Okay, Ken, we've talked about the basic differences and similarities in the size of the court and the equipment. Now let's go into the stroke production and talk about the similarities and differences there between platform tennis and tennis. And I think on a day like today, we should put our coats on. What do you think?
Good idea.
Okay.
Okay, Kenny, now I think we'd like to see your basic forehand stroke, which is, of course, a much longer flowing stroke than a platform tennis stroke is. That's good.
Ken, your tennis form is great, but that long flowing shot is not necessarily in paddle. The platform tennis stroke is more abbreviated on the forehand. Let me show you. It's all in there. Short stroke.
All right, let's see how the forehand is used in competition now. Forehand return to serve. Comes in behind it, hits another forehand, which sets up his partner to hit a volleying winner. Nice offensive shot. Let's take a look at your tennis stroke on your backhand now, Ken. Just like your forehand, it's a long flowing shot in tennis.
Okay, the stroke on the backhand is much more restrained in platform tennis than in regular tennis. Let me show you. You don't have that long flowing follow through. It's just a little jab, and usually you slice underneath the ball because you rarely get a ball high enough to try to hit big topspin.
We're seeing here Doug Russell, one of the best players in the world, taking the ball off the screen, hitting a nice backhand across the net. The ball goes into the screen, and he meets it out in front of him and follows through across the net. Nice, short, flowing shot. We've covered the forehand and the backhand now. Ken, let's go to another important stroke, of course, the serve. Nowhere near as important as it is in tennis because you only get one, and it's very important to put the ball in play. Actually, you can serve too well to the point where the ball can be taken off the screen and actually rammed down your throats.
That was a very good example of the single serve in platform tennis. Now, I'd like to have you show me your big serve in tennis. Your big offensive weapon. They even call it the cannonball.
Sure.
And I'm going to show you why it doesn't work in platform tennis.
All right.
That's big. That's big. But I'll tell you what. I'm going to take away your power, which you don't need in platform tennis, and I'm going to give you a paddle. And from now on, you're going to think steadiness, ball control, and patience. I don't mean pooping the ball. It's a controlled pace shot on all your ground strokes and your serve.
That's very interesting, Dick. And also, it looks like it's going to be fun. How about if you show me a paddle serve so I can see the difference or similarity myself?
Okay, good.
All right.
The motion is identical to your tennis serve, except, as I've been teasing you, you don't have the need for that great amount of power. Again, it's more restrained. You notice I throw it up out in front of me because I always want to go in behind my serve.
Ken, here's a classic example of what I mean. Big Herb Fitzgibbon's going in behind a serve, and right away, he and his partner, Hank Irvine, control the net. That's why you must always go in behind your serve. The team that controls the net will usually win a match. Okay, Ken, now we've seen the three basic strokes, the forehand, backhand, and serve. And we'll go to New York City, a strange place for the world's richest platform tennis tournament, the Pro Keds Classic, right in the middle of Manhattan. The top 8 teams competed, including the young Baird brothers who didn't make it through. Youngest team by far on the tour, and one of the most exciting, co-ranked #1 in the world. Kane and Saki from Louisville, Kentucky. Mangan and Kingsbury, who once dominated the sport back a few years ago. And Duke Felt, Mike Burton from Darien, Connecticut. A very exciting team, 7th seeded. Let's meet the semifinalists, the top 4 teams who are fighting for $20,000. In the foreground, John Brownlow on the left and Scott Rogers in striped shirts from Cleveland, Ohio. And in the distance, Chum Steele and Keith Jennings, a very exciting team from Boston, Massachusetts. This is match point we're watching, with Steele and Jennings winning, entering the final round. The other semifinal round match puts Fitzgibbon and Irvine in the orange warm-up suits against Gordon Gray and Doug Russell, co-ranked #1 in the world and actually favored in this tournament. This is match point. Ball goes into the net, and Fitzgibbon and Irvine enter the finals. Herb Fitzgibbon is an outstanding tennis player. His partner, Hank Irvine from Rhodesia, also a Wimbledon tennis player. Their opponents in the finals are Keith Jennings and Chum Steele from Boston, Massachusetts. A very fine tennis team as well. Working with me that day was Bill Toomey, former Olympic decathlon champion, and we're 2 sets up for Fitzgibbon and Irvine, 6-all in games, and we're into the tie break with Steele and Jennings down 0-1 in the 12-point tie break. We pick up the action now.
Continual action in paddle.
This is some rally.
Some great moments in these sets, games.
Out.
0-2.
Keith not too happy with that last volley.
You're still not going to predict, huh?
Never over until the last point.
Did you just make that up?
It's one of my many cliches.
What are your bromides, huh?
It's very interesting because there's a ripper. I was just going to say that Irvine and Fitzgibbon haven't hit the big shots in this tiebreaker. They've been just content to be steady and lob. But they're so close to winning, why take needless chances? A good pick off the screen.
Oh, that's a tough one to get when it comes down on that screen. Oh!
Marvelous shot by Chum Steele. 2-1 for Irvine. 7-point tiebreak. You have to win by 2 points. The let cord behaves. It stays in the service box, so Irvine's going to serve again. That's good.
Get back, Chum, and Chum is back in time to get that shot. Almost like slow motion at this point, because every point is so critical. This power shot's almost being like a catalyst to let the frustration out.
The serving team
Change of hand by Chum again.
has the net.
Goes from his left to his right.
Good return by Steele.
It's nice when you hit that corner solid, isn't it?
That's what you aim for.
What a volley.
Irvine and Fitzgibbon are not going to give up that net. If they do, it'll be begrudgingly.
Fitzgibbon has to cover, what, about 10 feet of wall when you consider his arm up and his jumping ability? Putting it over him would be like putting it out of the park.
That's right. This is some rally. Into the net.
Yeah, it has to happen.
Chum lost his patience, and he can't afford to do that right now. 3 points to 1. Third set tie-break. 6 games apiece. A fine return by Keith Jennings from the backhand side, and 2 points to 3.
There you see it, Dick. Why don't you explain that now here? As you can see, the first 2 sets, 6-3, 6-2 for Fitzgibbon. And now we're in that third set.
We're in a lingering tiebreak over the baseline. 3 points apiece. You have to win by 2 points. If you get the 7-6, you have to go to 8-6 in points. Chum Steele and Keith Jennings fighting for their lives to stay in this match. They're behind 3-1 the tiebreak. It's now 3 points apiece. Playing for a lot of money on the baseline.
Irvine keeps it in play. Oh, beautiful shot by Irv Fitzgibbon. It seems as though when Fitzgibbon and Irvine meet, it's almost like tantalizing those guys into back into action again. But they just can come right back and slam a shot like that. Beautiful.
Nice volley to the open court. Beautifully covered outside by Irvine. He tried a little drop volley.
Dinked it right out.
Not too bright a shot when it's such a important point by Irvine, but
that is not a payday shot.
But bold. All right, 4 points apiece. Lingering death tiebreak. Served by Fitzgibbon into the corner. This is a very exciting third set. Down the middle, lobbing, waiting for the opening. Bill, I don't know about you, but I'm tense.
I'm cold.
It came out from the sweet spot.
I'm cheering for Fitzgibbon and Irvine out of necessity. I'm freezing.
You mean you just don't always go with a winning team?
No.
Okay, here we go. Every point serious. 4 points to 5. Keith Jennings serving. Nice serve under pressure. Big forehand, beautifully volleyed, and hits the top of the net by Irvine.
Irvine again.
A great volley.
Missing those soft shots.
By Mr. Reflex himself. Keith Jennings, he smiles about it. 5 points apiece. Boy, that was a tough serve. Keeping the ball down the middle. Here comes that big forehand. Two. Right on the baseline by Chum Steele. Into the corner. Overhead by Steele. Lob by Fitzgibbon. There's an opening. Beautifully picked off down the middle. And into the net.
That one worked out.
That was some shot by Herb Fitzgibbon. We have match point here. 6 points to 5. Serves. Picked off. Match point. Big forehand. Chum Steele playing very boldly. And a great volley.
I tell you.
Great volley by Hank Irvine for the match.
Chum Steele and Keith Jennings defeated by Irvine and Fitzgibbon, but they made them play for that victory. There you see Hank Irvine out of Short Hills, and his partner, Herb Fitzgibbon. And of course, there is the defeated group of Steele and Jennings, the 1975 champions.
In slow motion, match point. Point that won $10,000. In comes Chum Steele behind a forehand. Very bold to come to the net behind the ball. That's such a crucial point. He's hit through, and they lose the match.
Well, our champions are crowned. That is the biggest payday ever in the sport of paddle, as it's referred to by the aficionados.
Okay, Ken, we saw platform tennis being played by the very best teams in the world. And held in conjunction with that great tournament was a sponsored clinic for the New York City kids. They got the opportunity for the first time in their lives to learn the appeals and the fundamentals and basic strokes and strategies of platform tennis. And it was sponsored by Pro Keds. We hope they're going to do a lot more of these in conjunction with the New York City Parks and Recreation Department. It's a very worthwhile thing to get the kids playing the game early in life.
Dick, in watching the Pro Keds Classic with you, I noticed that all the better players seem to really be in position to hit the ball, and it seems like footwork is really an important part of the game, is it?
Yes, footwork is just as important in paddle as it is in tennis. In some ways more important because you're so much closer to your opponents. And the old story, you got to be sideways to the net and follow the ball around. Footwork's very, very important.
I also noticed that, you know, the surface of this court is rough, and I'm sure they'd be hard on the footwear. Is that true?
Yes, the surface is rough because, you know, by tradition you can play it outdoors in the wintertime, just shovel the snow off. So you have to have a good, durable shoe that will hold up to this very abrasive surface.
Now, I've always felt that the Pro Keds Royal Edge is the best platform tennis shoe I've ever played in.
And you know that the motion of the overhead smash in tennis is very much like your tennis serve, right? Now, in platform tennis, this is also true. But there's no reason for great power. So come on the net, and I want you to hit a typical overhead smash, a tennis smash, and I'll show you how you're baiting your own hook by doing so.
Gee, it's almost unfair.
Yeah, you get yourself in trouble by hitting the ball too hard.
Right.
It's a soft, kind of a caressing shot, subtle shot that you aim toward the back corners.
Why don't you show me one, Dick?
Yeah, well, here's a very good example of a ball that is hit off of an overhead that goes into the side and the back screen. It just can't be picked out from the corner.
The overhead in platform tennis is a soft, subtle shot. Why don't you throw me up a couple of lobs, and I'll try to show you where to hit it and where it lands in the back screen.
Okay.
Straight down. Straight down. Straight down, so it's descending into the back wires.
All right, here's another example of the perfect overhead that goes into the back wires and off of the screening, and you just can't scoop it out of the corner. It comes out askew. Very difficult shot. Perfect shot.
And Ken, beside the so-called sweet spots in the back rear corners, you also have another spot which is right down the middle, just above the snow gates, that confuses the opponents or dies in the back court. This is the so-called center theory of platform tennis, which you have in regular tennis too.
Right. Dick, what about the lob in platform tennis? Is it the same as in regular tennis?
It is the same from the standpoint of the motion, but you hit a lob a great deal more. It's all part of being steady, you know, not being able to smash through your opponents. And you aim to a different spot. Now, what do you do in tennis?
In tennis, I try and hit it high and preferably right on the baseline if I could.
Yeah, well, in platform tennis, you don't do that. You try to just barely clear your opponent's outstretched paddles while they're up at the net, and it will land somewhere in between the service line and the baseline, in no man's land, so that it's descending a second time as it goes into the screen, very much like your overhead.
Right.
Just, you want to try a couple?
Sure. Let me hear you.
Okay, I'm in the power position now. Let me see you lob to me.
Okay.
A little bit higher. Perfect. Perfect. That would have landed right in here, and it was a winner because I couldn't go back and get it off the screen.
I see.
If you hit with great depth, it will come off the wires, and your opponents can go back and still retrieve it.
Okay.
Now you've mastered the lob, let's go to the screenplay, which is the most difficult part of the game for beginners to learn, but really it shouldn't be. It's very simple. There are two important things to remember. Taking your paddle back as the ball goes by you and getting in close enough to the wires. Those wires are not electrified. You should use them as your friends. Hit me a few overheads, and I'll hit some shots off the screens, and you'll notice I'm hitting mostly lobs.
Okay.
Take my paddle back, throw it up in the air, try to force my opponent away from the net. Taking my paddle back, getting in close to the wires, and reaching out front. Now, when you hit the ball real hard, it comes out high enough, you can rip it.
That's good.
Good.
That's great, Dick. But what about playing the ball off the corner where the side screen and the back screen meet in that so-called sweet spot we talked about? Wouldn't that be a lot more difficult?
No, actually, Ken, it is no more difficult. The same principles hold. You turn sideways, take your paddle back, follow the ball. Why don't you hit me a couple overheads and I'll show you.
Okay.
Take your racket back and lob. You don't go into the corner and chase it. You let the ball come out to you.